Many people think that a fry scream is just a fry scream, but that's not actually true. Those are all fry screams, and depending upon which one you're doing, you might find it incredibly easy to go high, but almost impossible to go low. Or maybe your fry scream will sound really full, but you can't get it to be very loud. And that's because there's actually at least 5 different types of fry screams. And I personally separate them into even more than that. So in this video, I'm gonna help you figure out which fry scream you're doing, what it's naturally good at, and what its limitations are. And keep in mind, there isn't necessarily one best fry scream, there's simply different tools for different sounds. And I've personally taught over 2,000 students how to scream, and one of the biggest things I've learned is that 2 people who both say they're fry screaming can actually be doing very different things. So let's figure out which one you're doing. So type number 1, a head voice fry scream. So if your fry scream sounds something like that, you're probably doing what I call a head voice fry scream. And this scream exists primarily in your head voice, where you're talking like Mickey Mouse. And its biggest advantage is that you can get ridiculously high with this scream. It's also one of the loudest fry screaming styles. And I love it when I'm trying to get that really panicked, insane, emotional sound. The downside, going low with that is very difficult. So for example, and you could think about your voice like having different gears in a car. Or head voice fry is kind of like being in that higher gear, where it's amazing for going high, but it's the wrong gear if you're trying to get a gigantic low sound. So if your highs are easy, but your lows feel almost impossible, you might be a head voice fry screamer. But here's where things get interesting, because you can move that fry into your talking register. And this is called your chest voice. And there's actually multiple types of fry screams hiding here. So the first chest voice fry sounds a little like this. This is what I call an upper chest voice fry. And instead of feeling like it's way up there, this one exists more in your normal talking register, but kind of in a more nasal placement. I'm in my talking voice, but sounding nasally. And this is actually one of the fry screams that I see a lot of people close to figuring out first, where it could feel more intuitive because we're working closer to the register that you already use when you talk. And these are pretty good for mid-range screams. So for example, and another huge advantage is that I find this type of fry scream easy to blend with false chords to create what's called a hybrid scream. So for example, here's a fry. Now I'm gonna add false chords. And you can kind of blend between the two depending upon your tastes. And that's really useful for creating hybrids. So the downside of this type of fry scream is that sometimes it can feel like you're kind of stuck in that middle, where it might be a little easier to go somewhat high and you can kind of go maybe somewhat low, but if you want extreme highs or extreme lows, there are better fry screams for that. And that brings us to a fry scream that I think a lot of people don't even realize that exists. What I call the lower place chest fry. Now, this is still a fry scream, but listen to how different that sounds compared to an upper chest fry. So lower chest fry, upper chest fry. And instead of having that higher, more nasal placement, this lower chest fry feels much lower in your throat. And the biggest advantage is kind of obvious, is that you can get really low. And in fact, I've personally found it easier to get extremely low with this fry scream than with false chords. And so the other thing too is that it has this really full, warm quality. For example, compared to hopefully you can kind of hear how they have kind of different characters, where that higher scream is a little thinner and this lower scream is a little warmer. But there's a trade-off. My lower chest fry is significantly quieter than my head fry scream. And going high with a lower chest fry is extremely difficult. So for example, this is basically as high as I can go. So if your fry scream sounds massive down low, but you can't figure out why your highs aren't working, you might not be doing anything wrong. You might just be using a fry scream that's naturally better at lows. So the next type of fry scream is almost the opposite because it's probably the most versatile fry scream on this list. And it sounds a little like this. Now, this is called a mixed voice fry scream. So mixed voice essentially combines the quality of your chest voice, hey, I'm talking in my chest voice, and my head voice. And that gives this scream a huge advantage because in your mixed voice, you can go much lower than your head voice, and then you can go much higher than your head voice. So, for example, if I was in head voice, I can only go this low. And then if I'm in my talking chest voice, this is about as high as I can go. But if you're in mixed voice, you can kind of hear that there's like a really big range in there. So it's also one of my favorite fry screaming techniques that's easy to add grit onto singing. So, so it can sound like really good with gritty singing. So, and it's also really good, useful for those yelly, shouting, metalcore type of screams as well. Bye! So the downside is that you have to first find a mixed voice in the first place, and that's already tricky for a lot of people before you even add that distortion. So if you're trying to add that pitched, shouty metalcore, if you're trying to get that pitched, shouty metalcore scream, and nothing else seems to sound right, mixed voice fry might be the missing piece. Now we're going to get into kind of some weirder fry screams. So the next type of fry scream is it sounds kind of like this. So yes, that's still a fry scream, but I'm just breathing in instead of out. And an inhale fry scream like this oftentimes gets a bad reputation because a lot of people consider it cheating. Personally, I don't really care. If you're getting sound you like, that's what matters to me. And another one of the biggest advantages of inhale fries is that a lot of people find that the coordination is probably the easiest to find compared to other screams. It also lets you make some pretty crazy sounds, sounds that you can only get doing inhales. So for example, I can get this weird, almost like clicker type of zombie distortion with an inhale that I personally can't recreate the same way using an exhale. But the trade-off of doing inhales is that they typically tend to have more of a thinner tone. For example, compared to so if your fry scream comes inward and it sounds really thin, nasty, and almost creature-like, you're probably doing it in an inhale fry. But there's actually another type of fry scream. And this is probably the most extreme fry scream on the entire list. And it sounds like this. Okay, so there's almost kind of like a tea kettle frequency inside of that scream, and that's what I call a whistle register fry. And you could potentially do this inhale or exhale, but for me, inhale is easier. So the biggest advantage of this is that this scream goes like maximum high. To my knowledge, I don't think that there's a scream that goes higher than that. If I want one scream in a song that makes somebody go, "What the heck was that?" then this is definitely going to be one of them. But there's an important problem with whistle fry. Sometimes people are accidentally doing a whistle fry when they mean to do a head fry. And they think that they're doing a head fry, but they've actually found that whistle register. And the reason why that's frustrating and kind of confusing is that let's see what I was about to say. So whistle fry doesn't behave the same way. If your head fry is incredibly shrill and it sounds thin and it almost sounds like a tea kettle, you might actually be doing a whistle register fry. So which fry scream are you? Let's make this really simple. If your scream is extremely high, loud, and panicked sounding, and it sounds very full, then you might be doing a head voice fry. If it's if it's more mid-range nasal and kind of easy to blend in with false chords, you may be doing an upper chest fry. If it's full, warm, and ridiculously low, then you might be doing lower place chest fry. If you feel like you can move your range around and get those pitchy, shouty metalcore sounds, then you might be doing mixed voice fry. If you're breathing inhale, then that's an inhale fry. And if you hear that insane tea kettle frequency, you may have found the whistle register fry. And here's the most important thing. None of these is automatically the best fry scream or the most correct fry scream. These are just tools. There are vocalists who find one of these and use it for basically their entire career, and that's completely fine. But understanding which one you're doing can explain why you might be amazing at one sound, but completely stuck at trying to make another. And it might not be that you suck at fry screaming. It might be that you're just using the wrong tool for the sound you're trying to make. And if you're watching these demonstrations and thinking, okay, I know which fry I'm doing, but I want to learn one of the other ones, then I've put a link below where you can get a more in-depth training on these different fry screams. You'll also have the option to schedule a consultation with me or a member of my team to see if personalized coaching makes sense for you. Because after teaching over 2,000 students, one thing I've learned is that there really isn't a one-size-fits-all way to find these sounds. Sometimes I'll take a student through dozens of different approaches before we find a handful that immediately click with their voice. So if you want help figuring out which fry scream you're currently doing, what's holding you back, and what you should learn next, click the link in the description. And hope you got a lot out of this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace.